And we are live. Welcome to the 5 Tibetans Yoga Workshop Hangout. Tone your body and transform your life. This is the inaugural hangout for this new book and program by Susan Westbrook. I will be introducing you to Susan very soon. And I am Robin Holland. And this is my first hangout representing an author who has created something amazing. What I love to do is discover people's gifts and see their amazing brilliance and help them shine it out to the world. And this is an opportunity to do this using Google Hangouts. So welcome, everyone. And I will now introduce you to the other people who are in our Hangout, which we have 4 people inside the Hangout right now. We have Susan Westbrook, author, Christopher Vogelman, who is helping us with comments. He's our comment wrangler, and I should be blue boxing. Here is Susan, and here is Christopher, and we have Caroline Perkhart, who is playing an important role as part of an unfolding story which you'll be hearing about. So back to me. I want to invite all of you who are watching to participate in the commenting. We have Comment Tracker on, and this is my first experience working with Comment Tracker, and that's where Christopher is going to be very helpful with us. So please tell us in the comments where you're hanging out from, and we are going to have a great hangout today learning all about the 5 Tibetans and what this has to do with us. All right, so
Yes.
Susan, I wanted to give a little bit of a background on you out of your book, which is it okay if I just read your bio?
Sure, if you'd like to.
Okay, I'm just going to save it.
Go ahead. No, you can go
Let
ahead.
me do one thing because I'm hearing this little sound, and I'm going to force quit my mail, which I should have done already. There we go. Yes. And Susan is an educator and a researcher, and you can see how great of an educator she is in the way that she's put together both the book and the yoga workshop. Susan took a leap out of the mainstream to embark on a path of spiritual enlightenment and personal healing. We're going to hear about this journey that she's taken. In her journey, she worked as a chef at a gîte in France, wandered the Northern California hills, teaching ecology to school children, and traveled to Scotland to become a Reiki master teacher. So many of these stories weave through the book, and it's done in a delightful way. So tell us a little bit about where you are right now, Susan, as a sort of an intro into this conversation about the 5 Tibetans.
Well, I'm at the Lobatel Lodge. It was a gîte when we first were here, but sort of transitioned itself into being a lodge because that's, I think, more translatable to the people who come here. And this is the home of what I consider the actual workshop. In the winter of 2013, every Thursday in the darkness in the coldness of the winter and snow, we would come together with some folk who lived in the area and actually started doing the 5 Tibetans and saying the mantras, but also working on the grasping and healing behaviors with the people in the area. And from that grew the concept that the book actually transformed at that point into being, instead of being a book about stories from Scotland and my time there, really transformed itself into being a book that was more about a workshop for people to actually be involved in. So that's where, and that's Caroline Perkhart is the owner and director of the lodge, and she's joining us today as a support system. I think must have been blue boxed because she's big on my screen right now.
Yes.
And so she's providing both a home for the hangout, but also providing support and has been providing support for the 5 Tibetan Yoga Workshop. And so this morning, actually, we got up and did on a rainy, cold morning, did the 5 Tibetans out on the back deck of the garden with 7 of the French residents who are staying here this weekend. And this next week we have, we are planning to do the morning work, the morning 5 Tibetans with a Dutch group are here for a cycling event. So I'm really happy to be here, and this was totally intentional. I absolutely wanted to do the inauguration of the book from this location. So I appreciate Caroline hosting and letting us be here, and I appreciate the two. And I don't know that we've introduced Christopher yet, but you and Christopher for manning the controls and making the Hangout possible.
Yes, go ahead and say a little something about yourself, Dr. V. Are you muted?
I'm sorry, I'm muted because I just realized we have a small flaw in this, which is the event does not have a video, so we're going to share this on YouTube now.
Oh.
So people have to go to YouTube because apparently this was constructed in a different manner. So I'm going to do. They'll be able to watch you on YouTube anyway. So I'll talk more about myself at the end.
Thank you so much for covering us on that.
Okay.
Okay, so I am just going to take a moment here and take a deep breath while we get the video going for everybody. And I am here in not sunny Santa Cruz, California. And Susan and Caroline, you are in what part of France?
Caroline, why don't you talk a little bit about where we are? Because
so we're in the southeast of France in the French Alps, and about an hour and a half from the Italian border and 2.5 hours from Switzerland. So it really feels kind of the hub of the Alps, near to everything related. And I must say, I really want to share that I am delighted that this launch is happening here at large. Delighted that Susan made the effort to come all the way over to France from the States. And it does feel like it's a birthplace and it's the home of this fantastic workshop and the book that comes with it. So it's delighted. It's just a joyful moment. And I'm so glad you're here to share it with us.
Yeah, I'm so glad.
Incredible achievement from its seeds about a year ago, really not that very long ago. Yeah, developing and creating the workshop itself, and then writing the book that goes with it, and that deepens our understanding of the practice and who we are, and how we show up in the world. Yeah, it's just a happy day.
Awesome. So Susan, let's see, where to begin talking about I see that you've written author and master leaper in your lower third, and there is a connection between your experience with writing this book and the way that you call yourself a master leaper. Would you share with us about that?
Well, I think I'll just use the example of how the book started to talk about why I think I'm a master leaper and why I feel like I can fill that role. Actually, Caroline and I were talking about how leaps occur because you and I, Robin, have been talking about this quite a bit. And for a leap, for me, is to really move from one place in your life where you're comfortable and where things are sort of going the way that you're expecting them to, maybe even stereotypically, and then make a choice or make a not choice, be forced to do something entirely different that requires a big shift and change in the way you think about yourself and about your life. And we're all being asked to do that more and more and more. We all, I don't know, I'm going to say I'm in my late 50s, and instead of settling into a life of retirement or, some sort of easiness, it just feels like the changes just keep coming and coming. And at this point, I feel like I'm sort of like a surfer of the leaps. I just kind of surf from one leap to the next. But in this particular case, the book was something that was in my heart that I wanted to do after I went to Scotland and was trained as a Reiki master there. But the next year, the book never came. and I was in Berkeley, I was in a relationship, I was in a sort of a comfortable situation, but it wasn't necessarily in my best interest, and that relationship ended. And because I had not found work in Berkeley during that time, because I have been sort of on, as I've sort of been a spiritual wanderer for a few years, I didn't have a lot of assets. And I found myself one day on a bench in Berkeley out at the marina basically thinking about what in the world is going to happen to me. Because I have no job, I have no money, I have no place to go, and I'm going to have to make some big decision here. And in the book there's a little vignette about this situation, but I went over to a bench and sat down on it, and there was a quote by Helen Keller that basically said that security doesn't exist in nature. That life is an adventure or it's nothing. And in that day, I decided that I was actually going to go back to Scotland and write the book that I proposed to do a year before. And that was a pretty tremendous leap, to leap. I've never written a book. I did author papers and chapters when I was at university, but I've never written a book. I know nothing about it. I just knew that there was one in me and it needed to come out, and this must be the time for it. So that's what I would call a leap. And I went home and I wrote some emails to some friends in Scotland. And within 3 days, I had a free place to stay for the first month I was there. I had a place to stay after that. I had a writing coach who ultimately introduced me to Sabine Week, who is the editor at Findhorn Press, who I had intended to have the book published by, and it was indeed published by Findhorn Press. And so that is sort of me. I mean, this is who I am as a person, and that's how the leap is. That's why I consider myself to be a master leaper, and I think the book's just a great example of that.
I will agree with you on that, and I think that's what happened when you and I first met, Susan, and while in our first conversation, I don't think anything was mentioned about leaping. I'm not even sure anything was mentioned about yoga. It was a business conference where we met, and it was a transformational business conference. But
let's advertise Jesse and Charla and say it was at Thrive. Let's just say that.
It was a Thrive Academy business transformational business development program that is amazing. Yeah. But we didn't talk about yoga, and we didn't talk about you being a master leaper. We were participating in their exercises. It was later when, just in the conversation, I think you were interested in Hangouts, which I was talking about, and I actually had a sore neck. And I was talking to you about, I have this neck, I have a pain in the neck, and it's really bothering me. And you said, well, I have something that I think can help you with that. And it was the 5 Tibetan workshop, actually, that you were doing online. And I have done yoga since 1999. I've done Bikram yoga. I did an intensive lot of Iyengar-style yoga for a long time. And I thought to myself, really? A yoga workshop online, really? In fact, it was a webinar. It was not live. It was not spending 90 minutes in a room with a bunch of other people. And I thought to myself, how can this be? But there was something about some way that I experienced you, actually, and your courage and belief that made me think this might be something that I should try. And you also told me that somebody in a workshop had a long-standing problem. I think it was with IBS. Is that what it was? Right. And that had cleared up after many years. It had cleared up. So tell us a little bit about that, because that's what got my attention, actually, and why I became interested in, first of all, in the workshop, and that's all unfolded into so many other things.
Well, the 5 Tibetans I think of them as sort of a cultic yoga almost. They're not a mainstream yoga. You won't find them in most yoga studios. And they were actually brought to this country in the 30s by a man who, it's a sort of a legend, but he allegedly had gone to Tibet to try to rejuvenate himself because he had gotten old and was walking with a cane, and he had been in the military, and he wanted to sort of enhance his vigor, and he came back from this experience and shared it with this man named Peter Kelder, who was a writer, so that they could tell the story about these 5 Tibetan yogas that were used in the monasteries in Tibet by the monks there. And allegedly, because they're in such austere conditions and they needed to have great strength, but also within the regulation of their day. That's why the 5 Tibetans were considered very rejuvenating and invigorating. They're meant to speed up the chakras. So part of the explanation of how, and there is a connection in the mantras in the 5 Tibetans workshop with the chakras, but to speed up the energy in the chakras that over time and as we get older and older just sort of get sluggish. And I think of it as sort of greasy buildup, the old plumbing commercial of the day. I guess it was Drano or something. It's sort of just need to speed those chakras up and get that energy flowing again, so that so that you can be at your best in every way possible. So the 5 Tibetans have a history of a lot of healing, and I have to always say allegedly because we don't want to claim something that isn't true, but I can tell you the people in my workshop alone, we had a guy here when we did the 5 Tibetans in the winter, 5 Tibetans workshop, who literally has I guess it's malleable scoliosis, so his spine literally changes from one curvature to another, and he could hardly get out of bed, and he's a fairly tall man. He's about 6'4", and he's in his 60s. And I don't know what that pinging is, but if we could stop that, would be great. So I don't know what that is. But after doing the yogas with us for about a month, he started reporting that he could actually get out of bed and walk around in the morning for the first time in forever. He could never remember ever being able to do that simply because he was doing the 5 Tibetans, and that is their history. I mean, every book that's ever been written or every sort of commentary on the 5 Tibetans, something about physical health is part of that, and reinvigoration and just restoration, actually. So whether it's IBS or asthma, people that have had asthma for a long time in our groups have gone off their inhalers, whether it's back pain, and those are sort of the physical elements of it that I was introduced to originally. The piece that I've picked up on more than anything, though, from my own work in it, and I also then, I think, give to my readers in the book, is the more internal spiritual journey that is also available to you through a daily practice of the 5 Tibetans. And I think that's something that we will talk about in a bit, but I just want to add that physical element is, yes, part of it, but the spiritual element or the personal emotional element is also
We have.
It looks like we may
Susan
have
is
a little
frozen, apparently,
technical.
so Susan may
Yes.
be frozen right now, so we may have to have her reload. That's the
Okay.
of heading all the way
What
over
did
to
Susan
Europe
do?
and Santa Cruz and every place else. So.
We're having some fun technical problems today.
It's a
but
technical
all
check.
good.
Are you back on?
okay.
Yes. She's
It's
back.
very strange because Caroline did not go off, but I
I
did.
stayed.
Yeah,
No,
that
Caroline
is
could be
great.
the new guest.
I'm here.
And since
She's
we're
the new
all
guest.
on now and chattering, are we cool with links, Christopher? Do we have a YouTube
We're
link?
good. There's a YouTube link out there. Apparently, we do not have the normal video viewing section to the event itself, so everybody needs to head on over to the YouTube link. Thank goodness we have that posted, thanks to Robin's handiwork.
Oh, thank you, Christopher. Thanks. This is teamwork. You see, this whole thing with Google Hangouts is it brings out the best in us. And I'll just say, my little platform here, one of the reasons why I like this is because you can't really be perfect with Google Hangouts, because between technology and weather and people's equipment, well, that is technology, but we get to just be ourselves here. And so let's just all relax and feel comfortable and crack a joke, whatever it takes. Maybe even pop a champagne.
Well, the champagne is right behind me, so actually I'm happy.
That is on track.
Yes, because
I'm happy
just a little commercial right in the middle here. Here is the book. I have it in my hot hands here, and this just right in the middle of the flow of everything, I'm going to say this is a very well-written book Susan, for not being an author, as you said, or not having been published before. You said, I don't know how to write a book. This is one of the best books I've read in a long time. It's really well done. I don't know.
I paid her to say that, by the way. No.
I don't know how much of it was editor and how much it was you, but I think it was you, because how it's written is how you talk and how you share. So I'm just going to give you kudos right there about that.
Thank you. I appreciate that, and thank you for reading it. I appreciate anyone who reads it. I'm thankful. So that is, I'm hoping we will pass it along. So I just want to just turn it back on you, Robin, a little bit, if we may, because we've started talking about the leaping, and you brought in your neck problem, and I think that that you're making this like amazing leap today to do the Hangout, and I just want to say that for people, and I am going to take a moment just to say this. I think that for people who don't know what's involved in Google Hangout, I just want to say it's not an easy process, and I know that you put in hours and hours and hours over the past few weeks of really committing yourself to do this. And so I was wondering if you might just share from your own perspective how sort of the 5 Tibetans and the working kind of with the grasping healing behaviors and your own leap, how that sort of all formulated for you, because I think that's more interesting than hearing me chatter on about the book necessarily.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'd be happy to share about that. As I said, I spoke with Susan when my neck was bothering me, and I think I was just complaining, actually. And she said, well, I think I have something that might help you. And I jumped in listening to a webinar, and there were some visuals. There are pictures of how you do the 5 Tibetans. I had seen those before. So the way that the book is written, and there's just 5 postures that correspond to 5 of the 7 chakras that we talk about. But then there's this pairing of sort of a negative behavior and a positive behavior, and something about that, and just sort of this gentleness and this way of being with these concepts while doing breathing and being on a mat, not for a long time and not in a hot, sweaty room, by yourself. There's this way. Yeah, I used to come home like beet red, and my family would go, well, I guess we know where you've been. But there's just this way of being quiet with oneself in a simple practice. I've also experimented with so many different practices for quieting myself and quieting my mind and listening. So I think that one of the things I really love about this approach is the word grasping behaviors really got my attention. I can certainly feel myself often thinking, oh, I have to do something and I don't know how to do it, or I really ought to be more than I am, and I need to grasp for something. And when we put it in words like, oh, there's just this grasping behavior, maybe it's doubt, which I am pretty good at, or confusion, which I have a merit badge in, or some of these other sort of negative things, but then seeing how they translate into a positive, how they're sort of the negative side or the flip side of these very positive, these things that I have already, strengths, things I'm coded for, if you will. Just being present to that, taking the time to be present to that, and having it all be okay, and seeing how these negative behaviors and these positive behaviors kind of work together. I guess I started to appreciate that I could just be all right with it all, and then calling myself forward into talking about it and being willing to do that on a Hangout, and being able to use skills I've learned in this technology and put the rubber to the road and actually, drive the car, do the Hangout, and do it on behalf of my colleague, comrade, Susan. I guess that's sort of the culmination, and that is the leap for me, is just taking this action now after contemplating and realizing everything that I just said. Long answer. I hope it made sense.
No, I did. But I mean, I think yesterday when we were talking, I was sort of using the analogy of like in a graduate school where,
Oh, yeah.
where you, like, I guess it's 75, I guess when I was in graduate school, there was something like a statistic of 75% of the people who actually start a dissertation never finish it. And so they're called ABD, all but dissertation. And that when you're taking a leap or when you want to do something new and different, that, you know, the number of people who actually take the leap after they've done all the preparation and everything to get behind it is probably about that same percent. Because there comes that time where in the, you know, dissertation process you have to go a little bit further, but here you had a lot of schooling about doing Google Hangouts, and I know you send me such great information. I know Lisa Ingalls, her work is just incredible out there, and you're always educating me. And that could have been fine. You could have just become an educator, right? You could have just become a person who's always educating us about Google Hangouts. But this is your big leap. This is a big opportunity for you to step out there into a scary platform and to make this leap. So I just really appreciate that. As an example of what it means to do your work, which, you know, you went through some work on doubt and some confusion and fear and some other things that you call breadcrumbs. I love that you call the grasping behaviors the breadcrumbs. You know, you sort of went to that, and now you're in a place where you're moving past your fear and doubt and really going out in a place of creating connection, not only for us and the two of us, but also now to help us connect to lots and lots of other people who are out there. So,
Yeah.
hail to the leap.
Well,
Good job,
you.
well done.
And I want to say that you know, this conversation right here that everybody gets to watch is an example of what happens when this is the kind of activation that happens between people acting in their gifts. So Susan is gifted in helping people take leaps, and I'm a recipient of that. Looks like I just dropped. Did I? Can you hear me?
You're still here.
We still
Okay.
see you, but I know we have somebody who's on. You might want to.
Yes, I would like to introduce, it looks like Elaine is coming on, and so let me blue box Elaine. Do you have a question, Elaine?
Hi, Robin.
Hi, so good to see you.
Hi,
Hello.
Susan. It's nice to be
Hi, Elaine.
hanging out with all of you. And
Well, thank you.
I
I'm
want to
in
give a
my.
little intro on Elaine before she starts. Elaine
Okay.
and I and Christopher all were together in the Hangout training, and Elaine is amazing with laughter yoga. And so she has a real gift for inspiring people, for putting things in great words, and for wordplay. So I can't wait to hear what she's bringing to this conversation.
Oh, okay. I'm half excited and half nervous about this. So go ahead.
Well, I'm happy to be here. I don't know that I'm going to do anything particularly laughing or word playing or funny, but if something emerges, I'll let you know. I've kind of been in and out during the Hangout since it started, so I apologize for that. But I did want to say that it was in the late 1980s or 90s or early 90s when I first heard about the 5 Tibetan rites. And I may have spent 2 or 3 days exploring them. If these are the same ones that Susan is talking about, I remember there was something with spinning. Susan, were there things where you did spinning?
Yes. Would you like? I can show you. I'm told that it's very common in Hangouts to show pictures. So here's a picture from the book. So there's us. Wait a minute. I got to do my dyslexia. See, you got a little spinner. Yes.
There
Going around
we
little clockwise
go.
spin. Yep.
There. Okay.
It's a whirling dervish.
Okay.
It is sort of like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So now I'm connecting the 5 Tibetan rites, and then you are also linking the word yoga in with it. Is it that these have always been called yoga practices, but in their previous description that moniker was not given? Or we're using yoga now because all of these spiritual practices are all aiming at union and integration and healing, You know, we just use so many different words to mean the same thing.
Elaine, I wish it were as spiritually oriented as you're making it sound. However, I do believe that the publishers thought that the word yoga would actually attract more attention to the 5 Tibetans than not having it. So, giving it a wordplay. In the book, I always just describe them as yoga-like postures because they do have similarities to some well-known poses. For instance, in the second Tibetan is very similar to reverse table pose. The third Tibetan is linked somewhat, and it would be more so if I hadn't manufactured it a little differently, to the camel pose. And then you have downward facing dog and upward facing dog in the 5th position. But really, I think it's gone from being called a rite to really just being called either the 5 Tibetans or the 5 Tibetans yoga. And I don't know that there's any real spiritually oriented reason behind that.
And in the world of
Did that answer your
mindfulness
question?
and yoga, it's all yoga anyway, right?
Right. Well, she pointed that out. It was about the union and joining together. So it is, and it is for the same element of yoga, for joining of the body and the mind and the spirit together in that practice. So I think from your calling on that, Elaine, was spot on actually.
Yeah. So I missed some of your story, and I'm not expecting you to go back and say it all, but in addition to the book, which reintroduces this work and this practice, tell me more about your role and your services. Obviously, the book is one way of getting the information out, but is there a particular way? Are there new things emerging for you in terms of service to individuals, to groups, related to this wonderful practice?
Well, thank you for the opportunity to advertise. So yes, there are. We just finished a 12-week online program, which I think that which Robin alluded to, and that will continue. We have a new video series actually coming out, hopefully sometime in the next few weeks. I also do weekend retreats for the 5 Tibetans Yoga workshop, and to work specifically on the grasping and healing behaviors and sort of personal healing and clearing that goes along with that. And I am a coach, both a life and business coach, and so I work with individuals, groups, organizations, businesses to implement the structure. Not just the structure, but really almost the philosophy behind the 5 Tibetans Yoga Workshop for people who need to make leaps or make changes or get from here to there, however you want to describe that. So yes, there's a lot brewing under the surface besides the book. As you know, books often are just a sort of tip of the iceberg, something we can put out there for people to see and hold in their hands, but they really the work is I think is a lot bigger under that surface.
And as Christopher and Robin and I have experienced, going through a new practice or a new sphere of learning and deepening the experience, it is often so much better when it's shared in community. And so, and then we extend and we expand these relationships, and they grow and they overlap and they flower and they're beautiful. So I'm really happy to hear that for people who do have curiosity about this particular practice, there are ways to experience it in community and in a supportive setting.
I'm glad you're now a part of that setting, and I will look you up so I can learn more about laughing yoga too, because now I'm totally interested. So, but yeah, I do believe. In fact, we were talking about just the book itself and how many people were a part of creating the book, from the people who were in the workshops early on and the people who helped at the reading in the end. And I just totally agree with you. I think that when things are shared, it's so much sweeter. It's so much sweeter to be able to have to have my launch out loud today in front of friends and family, than to be sitting in a bookstore somewhere with one person coming to the launch. I mean, this is a much better situation, and also just to be able to share this moment with everyone is it's just very meaningful to me. So yeah, I share your interest in community, I think.
Can I take this moment now for, would you like to, I think you had a couple things you wanted to offer, just things you wanted to give away, Susan. Did you have a way that you wanted to do that?
Well, we do, but we actually are not finding that Caroline is going to have access to the names to write this, because we had this sort of set up. So what we're going to do is after, because Chris promised us that we would have a list of everyone at the end, right, who shows up?
You will.
Yeah.
I promise. I promise.
Okay. So as soon as we're finished and we have that list, we will do a drawing, and we will give away 3 books, signed books, and 2 coaching sessions, and then we'll at the end of this time make another offer. Not an offer, but we have another giveaway that's a little bigger giveaway for right at the end. So I'm going to apologize that we're not going to make these happen right this second.
Yeah,
Okay.
we can list those results in the events comments section later.
Okay, cool. Thank you, Christopher. I appreciate that. Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks for stepping in and saving me.
No worries. She's on an iPad. She can't help herself. So I saw that Simone just came on.
Yes. What's happening, Simone?
Yeah, I have been at the YouTube, and I have been trying, as Elaine made it. I thought, oh, maybe I can join directly. So I clicked your link again, and so it worked.
Awesome.
Excellent.
Welcome.
Welcome. Yeah, thank you.
So Susan, one of the things I wanted to make sure that we covered, and I'm not sure if you did this when I was paying attention to some technical difficulties, but you wanted to really talk about Findhorn?
Well, I wanted to, first of all, I want to give Findhorn Press some credit. I mean, I think this is a book launch, and in a book, if you know anything about publishing, somebody has to believe in you in the beginning. And I've read Eckhart Tolle's story about when he tried to peddle The Power of Now to Hay House and how they didn't take it. So the New World Press ended up picking it up. But, somebody has to believe in you in the beginning. And so Sabine Week at Findhorn Press sat with me at the Blue Angel Cafe in Findhorn Park one morning and gave, 2.5 hours of her time teaching me a little bit about the publishing business, because as I told you before, I knew absolutely nothing. But then also taking this project on, I think, with her publisher and believing in the project. So I I'm very grateful to Findhorn Press. They're a small publishing company. They're an eco-publishing company. They're nonprofit. They put out about 11 titles a year. And I'm hoping that people will, the offer we're going to make at the end is a half-day VIP retreat, coaching retreat with me for anybody who buys the book between now and 12 o'clock midnight Eastern time on Sunday night. So I'm going to encourage you to buy the book from Findhorn Press. You can go online and buy the book just as easily as you can. Buy it from Amazon. The pricing really isn't any different. And you'd be supporting a publishing company that supports authors like me, people that most of their authors are not, well known. There are a lot of new first authors. And so I appreciate you giving me that opportunity, Robin, just to give them just to give them their due in this, because it's a work of love, actually, on both sides to put a book through, and I didn't really understand that, I don't think, when I first started the process. We've got more and more people on. I see heads popping up everywhere. There's a new head on our screen right now.
Okay, so we'll come back to that at the end of the hour, and you can announce how people can buy the book from Findhorn.
Okay.
Yeah, and you might. I'm just gonna jump in here because you might have missed that amazing offer. The idea of
Yes.
buying the book is worth it just for having the book, because it's a wonderful read, and it's a wonderful guide. And And the idea of getting a VIP half day with Susan is just an incredible gift. And the opportunity of that being a possibility, I don't know, the Americans would say it's a no-brainer.
So is that, Susan, are you offering a half-day VIP for anyone who buys the book, or is it a drawing?
No, it'll be a drawing. It'll be a special drawing. So we'll give it a little bit more. I sort of borrowed that from Susan Brimmer and Neil's her strategy that we were a part of, and we'll just. I know some people have already bought the book because friends like Scott Stevenson and people wrote and said, and I know. Actually, Robin, you've already bought the book.
Yes.
So if you've already bought the book, then all you have to do is take a little picture of your book and just email that to me, and then you'll qualify for the drawing, and we'll do that. I guess on Monday our time, just to have that as a giveaway. But I wanted to, I think it takes time and effort for people to buy a book and read it, and I want to appreciate that time and effort and belief. Again, it's about a trust and a belief. I want to honor that. With something that I think is fairly substantial and can help people move forward and does represent my work, as Elaine was asking me about earlier.
Awesome. Do we have other questions among the people who have stepped inside or outside? As I'm looking at the comments.
Can I ask a question first? Is it possible that you could bring on Catherine Dowd if she's on our list of people? Because I don't know that she's going to know how to get on here.
Let's see. Is she there, Christopher?
As long as she has an invitation and a YouTube or a G+ address, she can get on. You just have to invite her if she's in your list of people, Robin.
Okay. I just want to comment, Kristen Drysdale, thank you so much. I love your comment. That's blue boxed now.
And is it Aileen? Or
Aileen. Hi.
Aileen. Hey.
Yeah. Hi, yeah, I've been watching on YouTube, and then I just went back to the Google page and saw the long link, which got me on here finally. So it's just really good to be listening to all this. Is fascinating. I'm very interested in. I do yoga, but that's about it. That's about it. And the idea of the leap is, yeah, I've done a couple of leaps in my time, and I'm in my late 50s, like you, Susan. So. I think there's a lot of identification there, so I'm just really enjoying it. Thanks.
Oh, thanks and where are you coming to us from?
I'm in the north of England,
Okay.
Northumberland, just about 50 miles south of the border with Scotland. So, yeah.
Okay. It's good country up there. I'm just a big fan of Scotland, and I
heard. Yeah.
Been friends for a long time, so yeah. No, I think Scotland They almost adopted me when I lived there. When I was staying there I went there a couple of falls, stayed for 3 months each time, and I'm hoping this fall. Well, I'm intending. Let me just stop hoping and start intending. I'm intending this fall to go back for a bit of time. So.
Good.
But thank you for joining us today. It's tea time there, so hopefully you got your tea.
Susan, what was the name again of the person that you wanted me to invite?
Catherine Dowd. It's D-O-W-D.
Dowd.
She is our yoga teacher person.
Okay, I have two possibilities. I don't know which Catherine Dowd it is. There's two pictures.
Is there one with?
Plus, there are several people who have the same name. So.
Yeah. So I can invite both of them, and we can see what happens.
See who shows up.
What does she look like?
Dueling Dowds.
What's that?
Well, she looks pretty normal.
I'm going to invite this person, but I don't know if it's the right person.
She doesn't. She doesn't wear glasses, or she doesn't.
I need glasses to see what this picture is. Okay. So funny. Is that a little bell when there is a comment?
Oh, yes, you have.
All right. We're having such fun here.
Oh, you're on. Good. You're back.
All right. We're just free-flowing here while we all figure out what's happening.
This is yeah.
Okay.
Let's see. I have
I
invited
have been
Catherine
once again
down.
spirited away from the works, but I'm back. So I think the angels are really with me today.
Yes.
Or the Google gremlins are interfering with the
Here are the
angels.
Google Yeah.
I like that term. Okay, I'm going to remember that one. The Google.
I sort of
gremlin.
like the idea that maybe, every once in a while I'm being spirited away to another location and then brought back for your benefit. So.
Just keep breathing.
So, what else do we need to do here, Robin? What else do we want to cover that you got on your list?
Do we have any other questions from outside? Let's see.
The daily practice. Caroline's suggesting that we might actually just have a moment to talk about daily practice because the book is really focused at taking time every day.
Yes, that's the perfect.
Elaine said she'd like to hear more about the actual daily practice, so we're getting some confirmation on that. So is it okay if I take just a bit of time to talk about that?
Please take time to talk about daily practice, Susan.
All right, and I'm not growing a beard, but I do have a bit of a shadow on me, so I was looking at this thinking I was like my 5 o'clock shadow is starting to show.
I haven't shaved in 3 days, so Kristen drives.
Okay.
All
right, so okay.
So, yeah.
Well, if it was my 5 o'clock shadow, I'd admit to it, but actually it's not yet, so I won't admit to that. But Elaine, what is it? It would be really helpful to me. What is it that you would like to hear more about for the daily practice? Do you want to beep on and talk about that?
Yeah, so if I were a neophyte starting out, or if I was someone who had just come into the Hangout late to listen and watch, and you were to just summarize the practice, how long it takes, whether it's something you start out and you add more time to every day, the mindset or a spirit set that you might want to invite into that practice, anything like that.
That would be great. I'd love to say that. I'd love to talk about that. Thank you for asking. First of all, the 5 Tibetans, when you do them as exercise, which is really popular in the United States right now, if you go on and look at YouTube's, you'll find people just whimming them out in 10 minutes, and you could do that. That's a possibility. So if you only had 10 minutes a day and you wanted to incorporate the 5 Tibetans into some sort of daily practice, you could do it that way. My suggestion is that you actually set aside 30 minutes a day, that you incorporate this into a bigger perspective of practice that involves, a set aside of time and space and also a routine that involves perhaps some meditation or gratitude or whatever. And I'll talk about that more specifically. And I just put up a YouTube today on that anyway, so that's another place to look. But the book is actually divided into 3 parts. In the beginning, it's sort of the beginning journey, so it talks about the 5 Tibetans and shows you the postures for each one. There's a section on the chakras and the chakras that are in conjunction with each of the 5 Tibetans, and then there's a section on the grasping and healing behaviors. So that's sort of your first week or so of your practice, and you get a sense of doing the 5 Tibetans, maybe 3 each, for the first week or so, just getting those under your belt and establishing a practice, which that routine and that habit is really important, because when push comes to shove, if it's not a habit, it's going to go out the window, and we all know that, from whether it's going to the gym or going to yoga studio or on a diet, it doesn't matter. We have to make that some sort of our habit. Then the book is broken into 10 additional chapters, 5 of which are called grasping behaviors and the 5 of which are called healing behaviors. And it's suggested in the beginning of the book that you actually address one of those behaviors each week as a part of the practice, because each, and as Robin talked about in the beginning, there's a grasping behavior for the first Tibetan, and there's a healing behavior for the first Tibetan, and there's a grasping behavior for the second Tibetan, and a healing behavior for the second Tibetan, and so on. And so by taking about a 12-week period of time for yourself and giving yourself about 30 minutes a day and reading the book along the way as you go, you can create a practice that incorporates both the physical element of the 5 Tibetans, which is already established as fairly significant, but then also the transformational element of that, which is really looking inside, looking in at things that are holding you back, at the habits that might be not serving you, and then also looking at ways to really blow up in a way or take on some behaviors that could be much more productive. And so 30 minutes a day.
I can still see you. Can you? Okay.
Frozen again, but she can
We're
come
frozen
in.
again. She
She'll
will
come
be
back.
back.
Bumped out, bumped in. Here we go.
And
Coming back.
here she is again.
And she's live, almost. Mostly alive. Resuscitating.
Are we here, Susan?
She's resuscitating.
Okay.
There.
So about 30 minutes, without further ado. About 30 minutes a day, I always begin with a bit of a meditation. I do the 5 Reiki principles every day, which is part of my practice, but that's not going to be a part of everyone else's. And then I go into doing the 5 Tibetans, and I liked that Elaine asked if it was going to stretch out, and Sheila's on here because I know those yoga pants. Hey, Sheila. What was I going to say that right before the Sheila yoga pants part?
Reiki, something, I don't know.
Whether it spends more than half an hour.
Let's see.
Oh, yes. No, it wasn't more than half an hour, but I can't remember. Anyway, Sheila's making me. The time it takes, but it's just a matter of if you give it the 30 minutes, and in the beginning you do. Oh, I know what it was. It was Elaine's question about would you start slow and add more. You generally start with 3 of the yogas, 3 of each of the poses in the first week or so, and then add 2 each week. And that was actually the prescription that was given in the very early book by Peter Kelder, and it's one that I followed and one that I think my students follow and find very productive. And I also know that ultimately you have to do it, all what I learned from yoga teachers like Sheila, who's on her special pants, and Catherine Dowd, is that you really are a student of your own body. And so perhaps for the first 6 weeks you only do 3 of each of the 5 Tibetans because that's what you can do. Or maybe you can continue up to doing 21 of, the second pose, but you can only do 5 spins because it makes you so sick every time you do it. But I found that the 5 Tibetans work together, just like the chakras work together. So the more we do each of the poses, no matter how few,
we're frozen again.
Frozen again.
Yeah. Do you want to go
Okay, well let's have a look at Christine's.
Kristen had a comment here.
You're back.
She says,
5 Tibetans gone. Yeah, go ahead, Christopher.
I just ran a search from YouTube, and the first thing that came up was 5 Tibetans gone wild. She asked, is this a bit of a knockoff?
Yeah, Caroline is not getting knocked off, and I am constantly, so we have no idea what that is.
No, that was just
test of my.
This was just a question that there was a search on Kristen Drysdale had done on YouTube, and there was something called 5 Tibetans Gone Wild, and she was wondering if this was a knockoff of your program.
No, I'll have to look that. I'm writing it down right now.
Provide entertainment.
Tibetans Gone Wild.
Right.
Go on again. Really, you need to come over here.
Yeah, I'm still on my screen.
Oh,
yeah.
You're back.
You drop, but you come back. It's not the end of the world.
And I just want to say for the Google Hangout, people that are keeping the statistics, I am hardwired in today, so I am not on wireless. And Caroline's on wireless, and she's been on all the time, and I'm the one that's getting kicked off. So that's just for your statistics for Google Hangout.
Yeah,
all right.
Really.
So I don't know, Elaine, if we got all that in there. I know I got. I think I got it all in there. So yeah.
One question for you about the daily practice in the Tibetans. Aline asked, how does each Tibetan correspond to the chakras? And I know you said earlier that, in fact, what were your words? You said that it was more of a sort of a tuning of the whole system as much as a correlation of sort of chakra to exact posture. But you want to talk about that a little bit?
Well, I do actually think that chakra, in fact, I reorganized the poses that I was taught. I was taught in a system that was created by Dekuli Oldershaw, who was actually, her teacher was a Tibetan, I guess a Tibetan master. And I shifted the position of the poses a little bit because I wanted them to be more representative one-to-one of the chakras as you went through the poses. So the spin in the first Tibetan is aligned with the third eye. The second pose is aligned with the heart chakra, the third pose with the solar plexus, the fourth with the belly and sacral chakra, and the fifth with the root chakra. And the book actually deals with each of those chakras and then talks about how each pose is associated and is also associated with an element. So light is associated with the first Tibetan, air with the second, fire with the third, water with the fourth, and earth with the fifth. So in the mantras that are in the book and that you can access there, the mantras actually blend the position, the pose, and the chakra and the element in each case. And so it is a system for me. I do see it as a one-to-one, and then as an overall big picture of as each of those chakras is more aligned, then you are more aligned and as a whole. So I guess it works both ways. Maybe that's the answer to that question.
I would love to share one of the mantras, and because I just found them to be absolutely beautiful. And so I'm going to share the one for the water Tibetan, which is the fourth Tibetan. And Susan has associated it with the fear grasping behavior. But here's an example. These are beautifully written. This is water, opening the belly and sacral chakra, washing away judgment of myself and others, blame and guilt of myself and others, lack of morality and integrity, smallness and fear. And when you take each one of these and then do the practice, even if you're only doing 3 repetitions of these things, with that sort of contemplation just before you do the postures, it just has this amazing effect. So that is how the practice works. So hopefully that helps a little bit.
Well, thank you for sharing that. And I also know that a lot of people, that some people choose to do the mantras and some don't. And I think that's just something that you make up for yourself. And then we also had some people in the online program that made up their own mantras, and that was great too, because ultimately it has to work for you, and it has to work with your spiritual tradition or with your belief system. And you know, I grew up in a conservative, fundamentalist Christian environment, and to now take on what is at some level a Buddhist practice, it means that I've had to shift and change a lot of my own belief systems, but it also says to me that this system is malleable, that it can contain a variety and a diversity of belief systems and spiritual traditions, and that you can shift the words and change the words to meet your needs and to actually speak to your own belief system. And I encourage my students to do that. If that mantra doesn't work for you and doesn't speak to you, then by all means, make it something different. Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that, Susan. So we're coming up to close to the top of the hour, and I think it's time for us to give information more specifically for those who are watching on the outside. I see that it's going inside the chat. So let's share, how can you
just
get
turn
the book?
that? You're going to have to turn that off. Yeah, we're transitioning.
Right. So to buy the book from Findhorn Press, what do people need to do, Susan?
They need to go to www.findhorn.com, findhornpress.com, or they can't even have to turn it literally. Sorry.
So that was www.findhornpress.com, which is FINDHORN, and I'm blue boxing me now, or not, findhornpress.com. And then your website. Go ahead.
Okay.
I'm doing it.
We're just okay. We're here. Just a second.
Technical difficulties.
Chris said you have to mute yourself, and if you. Okay. Okay. So what I was also going to suggest is if you go to, and I know Christopher already put this up on the chat. If you go to 5tibetansworkshop.com, which is the number 5, tibetansworkshop.com. that you can just click on the book link there, and it'll directly take you to Findhorn Press. And just for those people, because a lot of people have come on later, we've just said that, yes, I could probably up my best author status if you all buy your book from Amazon.com. But truthfully, what I would prefer you do is to purchase it, if you're going to, from Findhorn Press, because they are the my partners in this process, and it would benefit them and benefit me if that happens. And plus, as I said, they're a nonprofit eco-green press, and I'd really like to support their work in the world, and work with new authors, with other people like me.
That's really great.
That's just
my
hope.
For more information, Susan, about anything else that's upcoming, any workshops, the retreat that will be held in France in October, people should go to which website?
You can go to the 5tibetansworkshop.com, or you can also go to susanwestbrook.com. Either one of those websites will get it for you. Okay. And I think that, and one of the things that Robin and I are planning is to, I think, do a weekly hangout to go through the specifics of the book, sort of like a book club. So we'll have information about that out too soon, and then people can use that as another source of support. Okay. So one thing we want to do, though, on our end, before we quit, is we want to pop the cork, because this was the launch, and because it is officially 7 o'clock at night here, and we can drink now. It's not like you're having breakfast wine in California, but we just want to give and while Caroline is doing that, I will repeat that what we offered was, if you buy the book between now and 12 o'clock midnight, basically tomorrow night on Sunday night, that you become eligible for a drawing.
That's midnight where?
It's midnight Eastern time. I'm going to say midnight Eastern time. You become eligible for the drawing of a half-day coaching VIP day with me, which is just sort of a personal retreat. And you might be the winner. So we do get to, I wanted to raise a glass to everybody who showed up today. So here's our glass. To raise a glass to everyone who showed up today, for all the people that were involved in the book and bringing it to fruition, for the people who helped to make the Hangout. Thanks, Robin, and thanks, Christopher, for that, and to Caroline and to the Lovatel. And I also just want to give a toast to all the big leaps out there, for other people who have a dream that you have dreamed, whether it's a book or a new business or a marriage or a relation, whatever it happens to be. I just want to toast you and say that the biggest leaps in life begin in your heart, and so keep yours open. We get to drink in front of you. Is that a good thing or not?
That is. And congratulations to you, Susan, and all the best to you and your work in the world. And I'm just so thrilled to be here and to be celebrating with you and in the company of all these inside and all of our guests who are hanging out with us on the outside in the Hangout. We just wish you all the best, and I, too, raise my glass, which I'm not holding, about my coffee cup. I raise my coffee cup to all the leaps that are waiting to be had or in mid-leap right now, and wish you all the best. With that, I will end this broadcast. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.